Welcome to Wisdom Trek with Gramps. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, and we are on day 2572 of our trek. The purpose of Wisdom Trek is to create a legacy of wisdom, to seek out discernment and insights, and to boldly grow where few have chosen to grow before. In today's Wisdom Nugget, we'll explore Psalm 48, verses 9 through 14. It's a powerful passage that calls us to reflect on God's unfailing love, His protection, and the eternal nature of His guidance. Psalm 48 celebrates God's presence in Jerusalem, portraying the city as a symbol of His power and faithfulness. In the first half of the psalm, we saw how God's presence made Jerusalem secure, causing enemy nations to flee in terror. Now in verses 9 through 14, the focus shifts to worship, reflection, and passing on the knowledge of God's greatness to future generations. This passage invites us to pause, reflect, and to praise God for His faithfulness, reminding us that He is not just temporary help, but is a God who guides us forever. Let's begin by reading Psalm 48, verses 9 through 14 from the New Living Translation. O God, we meditate on your unfailing love as we worship in your temple. As your name deserves, O God, you will be praised to the ends of the earth. Your strong right hand is filled with victory. Let the people of Mount Zion rejoice. Let all the towns of Judah be glad because of your justice. Go, inspect the city of Jerusalem. Walk around and count its many towers. Take note of the fortified walls and tour all the citadels, that you may describe them for future generations. For that is what God is like. He is our God forever and ever. He will guide us until we die. This passage begins with a call to meditate on God's love. O God, we meditate on your unfailing love as we worship in your temple. The word meditate suggests a deep reflection, a pause to truly consider God's faithfulness. The people are gathered in the temple, a place where God's presence dwelt, to focus on His steadfast love. This verse reminds us that worship is more than singing or rituals. It's about reflecting on who God is. His love is unfailing, unchanging, and eternal. Even when life is uncertain, God's love remains our foundation. Imagine a sailor navigating by the stars. In the middle of the storm, the stars remain constant, guiding the way. God's love is like that. It never wavers, even when everything else seems unstable. Do we take time to reflect and meditate on God's love? In our busy world, we often rush through worship without even pausing to truly reflect on His goodness. This verse encourages us to slow down and to dwell on His faithfulness in our lives. Verse 10 proclaims, As your name deserves, O God, you will be praised to the ends of the earth. Your strong right hand is filled with victory. The name of God represents His character, authority, and reputation. The psalmist declares that His name deserves praise everywhere because He is a God of victory and power. The phrase, your strong right hand, is a biblical image of God's strength in delivering His people. In Exodus, God used His mighty hand to bring Israel out of slavery. Here, it signifies that His power is still at work, securing victory for His people. Think of a leader whose reputation brings confidence and reassurance to their followers. A great commander's name alone inspires courage. God's name carries an even greater power, bringing hope and victory to all who trust in Him. Do we praise God as He deserves? His name is not just a word, it reflects who He is. We should proclaim His greatness, not just in worship, but in how we live each day. In verse 11, the psalmist then calls for celebration. Let the people of Mount Zion rejoice. Let all the towns of Judah be glad because of your justice. The justice of God is a cause for joy. Unlike human justice, which can be flawed, God's justice is perfect, fair, and righteous. His rule brings true peace to His people. This verse reminds us that God's justice is not something to be feared, but something to celebrate. When He reigns, there is true joy, peace, and security. Think of a judge who rules fairly, protecting the innocent and ensuring that truth prevails. A community with such leadership rejoices because they know that they are safe. Do we find joy in God's justice? The world may seem unjust at times, but we can trust that God sees all things and will ultimately make everything right. Now, the psalmist invites people to inspect Jerusalem in verses 12 and 13. Go, inspect the city of Jerusalem. Walk around and count its many towers. Take note of the fortified walls, and a tour of all the citadels, that you may describe them to future generations. This is an invitation to look closely at what God has done. The people are told to examine the city's strength, recognizing that God is the one who made it secure. But this is not just for them. They are to pass their knowledge to future generations. The goal is to ensure that each new generation knows the power and the faithfulness of God. Think of a family preserving their history. Grandparents tell the stories to their grandchildren so the next generation understands their heritage. The same is true spiritually. We must share our experiences of God's faithfulness. Are we sharing our faith with the next generation? Our responsibility is not just to know God's work, but to teach them to others. Now the psalm closes in verse 14 with this powerful declaration. For that is what God is like. He is our God forever and ever. He will guide us until we die. This verse is a statement of confidence. God is not temporary, but eternal. He is our guide, our protector, and our King forever. The phrase, He will guide us until we die, is deeply reassuring. This means that God does not abandon us. He walks with us through every stage of life. Imagine a skilled mountain guide leading a group through a treacherous terrain. The travelers may face obstacles, but the guide ensures that they will reach their destination safely. God is our guide, leading us from this life into eternity. Are we trusting in God's guidance? Too often we try to rely on our own wisdom, but He alone knows the way that we should go. When we follow Him, we can walk with confidence and peace. And here are key takeaways for Psalm 48, verses 9 through 14. First, meditate on God's unfailing love. Next, praise His name and recognize His power. Third, rejoice in His justice. It brings peace and security. Fourth, pass on the knowledge of His faithfulness to the next generation. And fifth, trust in His eternal guidance. He will never abandon us. Psalm 48, verses 9 through 14 reminds us that God's love is unfailing, His justice is perfect, and His guidance is eternal. He is not just the God of the past, He is the God of forever. And thank you for joining me today on our Wisdom Trek. May you walk in confidence knowing that God's presence is your strength and He will guide you always. Until the next time, may His wisdom guide your steps and may His peace fill your heart. And if you found this podcast insightful, please subscribe and leave us a review. Then encourage your friends and family to join us and come along with us tomorrow for another day of Wisdom Trek, creating a legacy. Thank you so much for allowing me to be your guide, your mentor, and most importantly, I am your friend as I serve you through the Wisdom Trek podcast and journal. And as we take this trek of life together, let us always live abundantly, love unconditionally, listen intentionally, learn continuously, lend to others generously, lead with integrity, and leave a living legacy each day. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, reminding you to keep moving forward, enjoy your journey, and create a great day every day. See you next time for more daily wisdom.